The Galactic Council chamber had never hosted a more tense gathering. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, their various forms creating a mosaic of alien life that would have amazed any human observer. But today, their attention was focused on something far more disturbing than diplomatic pleasantries. Commander of the Hive Mind Collective adjusted his crystalline exoskeleton nervously as he addressed the assembly. His species had survived countless wars across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared them for what they now faced. Fellow beings of the Council, his telepathic voice echoed through the chamber's translation matrix, we gather today to discuss the most dangerous threat our galaxy has ever encountered. The humans have arrived. A ripple of fear swept through the assembled delegates. The serpentine ambassador coiled around her floating platform, while the gaseous ethereals dimmed their luminescent forms to barely visible wisps. Even the mighty warriors, whose red-scaled bodies could tear through starship hulls, shifted uncomfortably in their massive seats. "Surely you exaggerate, Commander," spoke Ambassador Aura of the Peaceful Healer caste, her four arms gesturing gracefully. "Our intelligence reports speak of a young species that has only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. How dangerous could they possibly be?" His compound eyes glowed brighter, a sign of extreme agitation among his kind. "You do not understand, Ambassador. These humans, they are unlike anything we have encountered in our million-year history of galactic exploration. They are absolute madness given form." The massive holographic display at the center of the chamber activated, showing footage captured by long-range surveillance drones. The image revealed a human military vessel, sleek and angular, moving through the void of space. To most of the assembled aliens, it appeared unremarkable, primitive even, compared to their own advanced technologies. "Observe their ship design," continued. "No shields, no defensive energy barriers. They build their vessels to be destroyed, and they fill them with explosive materials. When cornered, they deliberately detonate their own ships to damage their enemies. What rational species sacrifices itself so willingly?" Murmurs of horror spread through the chamber. The concept was alien to almost every species present. Survival was the primary drive of intelligent life throughout the galaxy, yet these humans seemed to treat death as just another tool of war. "But that is not the worst of it," pressed on. The hologram shifted to show surface battles on contested worlds. Human soldiers moved across alien battlefields with a terrifying efficiency that made even the warriors pause in recognition. "Watch how they fight." The assembled aliens watched in growing dread as human soldiers advanced under heavy fire, carrying wounded comrades while simultaneously returning accurate shots at enemy positions. When their advanced weapons failed, they resorted to more primitive tools. When those broke, they used rocks, sticks, or their bare hands. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to become more dangerous as their situation grew more desperate. "They fight wounded," whispered Ambassador of the Crystalline Confederacy, her transparent form flickering with disbelief. "Even when gravely injured, they continue fighting. My people retreat to heal when damaged. It is the logical response. These humans ignore mortal wounds and fight harder." "There are documented cases," added grimly, "of humans fighting effectively with broken bones, severe blood loss, and injuries that would incapacitate any of our species. One human soldier continued fighting for 37 minutes after losing a limb, using the severed appendage as a weapon." The chamber fell silent except for the various breathing, humming, and clicking sounds of the diverse alien physiologies. Each species was processing this information through their own cultural and biological frameworks, and all were reaching the same terrifying conclusion. President of the Trade Federation, his massive turtle-like head nodding slowly, finally broke the silence. "Commander, I believe you mentioned there was more disturbing news. What could be worse than what we have already heard?" His exoskeleton shifted color to deep purple, a sign of profound unease. "The humans have made contact with our frontier colonies. They have requested diplomatic meetings." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Half the chamber erupted in panicked chatter while the other half sat in stunned silence. Ambassador actually fell from her platform, her serpentine form writhing in distress. "Diplomatic meetings?" screeched Elder of the Void Walkers, her ethereal form pulsing with agitation. "They want to talk to us. Why would they want to communicate instead of simply destroying us?" "That is exactly what makes them so dangerous," replied. Every other aggressive species we have encountered follows predictable patterns. They want territory, resources, or the destruction of competitors. But these humans, they seem interested in understanding us. They study our cultures, learn our languages, and adapt their tactics accordingly. They are not just dangerous, they are intelligently dangerous. The holographic display changed again, showing intercepted human communications. The aliens could see human excitedly discussing the various species they had encountered. Human linguists working tirelessly to decode alien languages, and human diplomats preparing for first contact scenarios with genuine enthusiasm rather than conquest-focused planning. "Look at their faces," commanded. "See that expression? Our behavioral experts have identified it as something they call curiosity. They are not afraid of us. They are interested in us. They want to learn about us, understand how we think, discover our weaknesses not through force but through conversation." Ambassador shuddered, her crystalline form creating a musical sound of distress. "This is far worse than simple aggression. An enemy that wants to destroy you is predictable. An enemy that wants to understand you, that can adapt to your strategies, learn from your mistakes, and turn your own strengths against you." "Precisely," confirmed. "And there is more, the human delegation that wishes to meet with us. It consists of only one individual." This announcement caused the greatest reaction yet. Several representatives stood from their seats, their various forms of alarm creating a cacophony of sounds and energy signatures that overwhelmed the translation systems for several seconds. "One human?" roared General Or of the Empire, his massive red form bristling with barely contained fury. "They send one individual to face the entire Galactic Council. This is either supreme arrogance or supreme confidence. Either option is terrifying." "The human's name is Dr. Sarah," continued, reading from his data pad. "She is described as an diplomat. Her credentials suggest she specializes in first contact protocols and communication. She is 43 standard years old, which our research indicates is relatively young for her species." "What do we know of her personally?" asked, his ancient eyes narrowing with strategic thinking. "Very little that seems relevant by our standards," admitted. "She has no military background, no history of violence, and no apparent political ambitions. She appears to be genuinely motivated by scientific curiosity and peaceful contact. This, of course, makes her more dangerous than any warrior." The chamber buzzed with nervous energy as the representatives processed this information. A peaceful human was somehow more threatening than a violent one. The implications were staggering. "When does she arrive?" asked, having recovered enough to resume her position on the floating platform. "Her ship is already in our outer system," replied, his voice carrying undertones of barely controlled panic. "She will dock at station Omega-7 within 6 standard hours." The announcement hit the chamber like a physical blow. The theoretical threat was about to become reality. "What defensive measures have been taken?" demanded General Orr. "All available measures," responded. "Station Omega-7 has been reinforced with our most advanced security systems. Energy barriers, automated defense turrets, emergency lockdown protocols, and a garrison of our finest warriors from 12 different species. The station can withstand a full fleet assault." "And you believe this will be sufficient to contain one human?" asked Elder skeptically. Silence was answer enough. Ambassador Aura leaned forward, her healer's instincts making her more analytical than the others. "Commander, you have shown us evidence of human military prowess and adaptability, but this doctor appears to be a civilian scientist. Surely she cannot be as dangerous as the warriors you have described." "That is exactly what we thought," replied grimly. "But our intelligence suggests that the distinction between human civilians and warriors is not as clear as we initially believed. Their entire species appears to be capable of violence when necessary, regardless of their chosen profession. Moreover, this doctor specifically requested that the meeting take place on a space station rather than a planet's surface." "Why is that significant?" asked President. "Because space stations are closed environments with limited escape routes and recycled atmospheres. If she intended peaceful negotiations, why not meet on a planet where both parties could retreat if necessary? The choice of venue suggests either supreme confidence or—" He paused meaningfully. "Or what, Commander?" pressed General Orr. "Or she knows something about space-based combat that we do not." The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Each representative began considering worst-case scenarios through the lens of their own species' capabilities and fears. "Perhaps we should simply refuse the meeting," suggested Ambassador. "We could claim technical difficulties or scheduling conflicts." "Impossible," replied immediately. "They have already demonstrated the ability to track our communications and locate our hidden installations. Running would only confirm that we fear them, which might provoke the aggressive response we are trying to avoid." "Then what do you propose?" asked. "We meet with her," said reluctantly. "But we take every possible precaution. I will attend the meeting personally, along with a full diplomatic escort and security detail. We will attempt to learn more about human intentions while revealing as little as possible about our own capabilities and weaknesses." "And if she proves hostile?" General Orr asked, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. "Then we pray to whatever deities we worship that our defenses are sufficient," replied grimly. "Because if the reports about human combat adaptability are accurate, this single individual could potentially capture or destroy an entire station before we could mount an effective response." The chamber fell silent as each representative contemplated the magnitude of what they faced. A single member of a species they had never encountered before was about to arrive at one of their most secure facilities, and despite all their advanced technology and military might, they felt helpless. "There is one more thing," added reluctantly, as if he had been hopping to avoid this final detail. "The human's ship, it is not traveling alone." Every eye, sensor, and attention-focusing organ in the chamber turned to him with renewed intensity. "What accompanies her?" asked in a voice that suggested he dreaded the answer. "We are uncertain," admitted. "Our sensors detect something else aboard her vessel, but we cannot identify it clearly. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to be biological, but the readings are confused. Sometimes it registers as very large, sometimes very small. Sometimes it appears to be multiple entities, sometimes a single one." "Could it be another human?" suggested Ambassador Aura. "Negative, the biological signatures are completely different. Whatever this entity is, it is not human, but it appears to be connected to Doctor somehow. When she moves through her ship, the entity moves as well. When she rests, it rests. The correlation is too consistent to be coincidental." The assembled aliens exchanged glances filled with new levels of concern. The prospect of facing an unknown human was terrifying enough, but the addition of an unidentified alien companion raised the stakes to an almost unbearable level. "Could this unknown entity be a weapon of some kind?" asked General, "or perhaps a biological construct designed for combat?" "Unknown," replied. "But given what we know about human adaptability and their tendency to form alliances with other species, we must consider the possibility that they have already recruited alien allies in other parts of the galaxy." The implications were staggering. If humans were capable of inspiring loyalty or cooperation from other alien species, their potential for galactic influence was virtually unlimited. "How long until the human ship docks?" asked Elder, her ethereal form now barely visible with anxiety. Consulted his chronometer, 5 hours and 43 minutes. "Then we have less than 6 hours to prepare for what may be the most important and dangerous diplomatic encounter in galactic history," stated grimly. "What are our options for retreat if the situation goes badly?" asked pragmatically. "The station has emergency evacuation procedures," replied. "But they were designed for technical disasters or conventional attacks, not for containing a potentially dangerous alien species with unknown capabilities." "In other words," General Orr translated bluntly, "if this goes wrong, we may all die." "That is a possibility we must consider," confirmed reluctantly. The chamber erupted in panicked discussion as representatives began making rapid preparations for what might be their final diplomatic meeting. Some called for additional military reinforcements, others demanded immediate evacuation of non-essential personnel, and a few suggested simply destroying the approaching human ship before it could dock. "We cannot attack without provocation," Ara insisted, her healer's ethics overriding her fear. "If we destroy their ship without justification, we prove ourselves to be the aggressive ones. This could provoke the full military response we are trying to avoid. And if we allow them to dock and they prove hostile, we may not survive to regret our caution," Orr countered. The debate raged for several minutes before his voice cut through the chaos with the authority of age and experience. We will proceed with the meeting as planned. Station Omega-7 will be placed on highest alert, but we will not fire first. We are supposed to be the civilized species in this encounter. Let us act like it. The decision was made, though clearly not everyone was comfortable with it. As the representatives began making their individual preparations, remained at the central console, staring at the tracking display that showed the human ship's steady approach. In less than 6 hours, everything they thought they knew about galactic politics and relations might change forever. The humans were coming, and with them came possibilities both wonderful and terrifying. What worried most was that he genuinely could not predict which possibility would prove to be reality. Station Omega-7 hummed with nervous energy as the final preparations were made. The massive space station, normally a bustling hub of galactic commerce and diplomacy, had been transformed into what could only be described as a fortress. Energy barriers shimmered at every intersection. Armed guards from a dozen different species stood at their posts, and the station's artificial intelligence had been programmed with emergency lockdown protocols that could seal any section within nanoseconds. Commander stood in the primary docking bay, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the harsh lighting as he watched the final security checks. Around him, representatives from the major galactic powers waited with barely concealed anxiety. Despite their technological advantages and superior numbers, every being present felt like prey waiting for a predator. "Human vessel requesting permission to dock," announced the station's communication officer, a tall, blue-skinned whose normally steady voice carried a noticeable tremor. "Grant permission," replied, though his translator had to amplify his telepathic response twice before it registered clearly. "Direct them to Bay 12. All security teams maintain ready positions but do not display weapons openly." The massive bay doors opened with a mechanical rumble that seemed unusually loud in the tense atmosphere. Through the force field that maintained atmospheric pressure, they could see stars wheeling slowly past as the station rotated. Then, a sleek shape appeared in the darkness of space. The human vessel was smaller than expected, barely larger than a typical diplomatic shuttle. Its design was elegant in its simplicity, lacking the ornate decorations that most species use to display their cultural achievements or the aggressive angles that military ships employed to intimidate their enemies. It appeared almost peaceful, which somehow made it more unsettling. "Scanning for weapons," reported the security chief, a heavily armored whose red scales gleamed under the bay lights. "Results are inconclusive. The ship's hull appears to be composed of unknown materials that interfere with our sensors." "Of course it does," muttered Ambassador, her serpentine form coiled tightly around her mobile platform. "Nothing about these humans is ever straightforward." The human ship settled into the docking cradle with a grace that spoke of either advanced technology or exceptional piloting skill. As the mechanical arms secured the vessel and began the atmospheric equalization process, the assembled aliens found themselves holding their breath, or whatever equivalent their species used for anxious anticipation. "Atmospheric match confirmed," the communication officer announced. "The human vessel is requesting permission to disembark." His compound eyes focused on the ship's airlock, trying to pierce the metal barriers with sheer will. In moments, he would come face to face with humanity's representative, and everything they had feared might prove to be true. "Permission granted," he finally replied. The human ship's airlock cycled open with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a figure appeared in the doorway. Dr. Sarah was smaller than the aliens had expected. Most of the galactic species were larger than humans, but somehow they had imagined that humanity's representative would be more imposing. Instead, they saw a woman of average height with dark hair pulled back in a practical style, wearing what appeared to be a simple blue uniform with various insignia and patches. She moved with calm confidence, but there was nothing overtly threatening about her posture or demeanor. What captured everyone's attention, however, was not the human herself. It was what walked beside her, the creature that accompanied Dr. Easy description. At first glance, it appeared to be some kind of quadruped, covered in golden fur that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. It moved with fluid grace, keeping pace with the human perfectly, But there was something about its bearing that suggested intelligence and alertness that went far beyond simple animal instinct. "Greetings," Doctor said as she stepped fully into the docking bay. Her voice carried clearly through the translation system, and her tone was warm and friendly despite the tense atmosphere. "I am Dr. Sarah, representing the United Earth Government. This is my companion, Rex." The creature, Rex, turned its head to regard the assembled aliens with what could only be described as curious interest. Its eyes were dark and intelligent, and several of the aliens took involuntary steps backward as they felt themselves being studied and evaluated. "I want to thank you all for agreeing to this meeting," Doctor continued, seemingly oblivious to the fear her presence was causing. "This represents a historic moment for both our species and yours, and I hope it will be the beginning of a long and beneficial relationship." Commander found his voice after a moment of stunned silence. "Doctor, welcome to Station Omega-7. I am commander of the Hive Mind Collective, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. We appreciate your interest in peaceful contact." Doctor smiled, an expression that the aliens had studied but still found unsettling in person. The baring of teeth, even in a friendly gesture, triggered deep evolutionary warnings in most species. "The feeling is mutual, Commander," she replied. "Humanity has long dreamed of the day we would make contact with other intelligent species, to discover that there is an entire galactic community already established. It's beyond our wildest hopes." Rex chose that moment to make a sound, a low rumble that seemed to combine elements of both threat and contentment. Several aliens immediately went to full alert, weapons appearing in hands and energy fields beginning to charge. Doctor noticed the reaction and looked down at her companion with what appeared to be mild amusement. "I apologize. Rex is just expressing curiosity about your various species. He's never seen anything like you before." What is it?" asked Ambassador Aura, her forearms gesturing nervously. "Our sensors cannot get clear readings on your companion." "Rex is a dog," Doctor replied matter-of-factly. "Specifically, a German Shepherd. He's been specially trained for this mission and has been my partner for several years now." The aliens exchanged confused glances. The term dog had no equivalent in any of their languages, and their translation systems were struggling to provide context. "Is it a weapon?" General Or asked bluntly, his massive form still radiating combat readiness. Doctor's laugh was musical and genuine, but it sent shivers through the assembled aliens. They had never heard a sound quite like human laughter, and it carried implications of hidden knowledge and concealed intentions. "Rex is not a weapon," she assured them. "He's a companion animal. In human culture, we have formed partnerships with certain species that provide mutual benefit. Dogs like Rex offer loyalty, protection, and companionship in exchange for care and training." "Protection," repeated, the word carrying ominous weight through his translator. "Well, yes," Doctor admitted. "Dogs have excellent senses and instincts that complement human abilities. Rex can detect threats that I might miss, and he would certainly defend me if necessary. But he's primarily here as my friend and assistant." The concept was so alien that most of the assembled beings could barely process it. The idea that one species would voluntarily bond with another for mutual benefit, rather than domination or exploitation, challenged fundamental assumptions about how intelligent life interacted. "You have formed alliances with non-sapient species?" asked Elder, her ethereal form pulsing with fascination and concern. "Partnerships," Doctor corrected gently. "And dogs are more intelligent than you might think. Rex understands complex commands, can solve problems, and has emotional bonds that are genuine and lasting. We don't consider him non-sapient, just differently sapient." Rex, as if understanding that he was the subject of discussion, sat down beside Doctor and regarded the aliens with calm attention. His tongue lolled out slightly, an expression that the aliens found disturbing even though it was perfectly normal canine behavior. "Doctor," Commander said carefully, "perhaps we should proceed to the conference room where we can discuss matters more formally." "Of course," she agreed readily. "Rex will accompany me naturally. I hope that won't be a problem." It was clearly a problem for every alien present, but none of them wanted to appear unreasonable or hostile. The group began moving through the station's corridors, with Doctor and Rex walking calmly in the center of a formation of nervous alien diplomats and heavily armed guards. As they walked, the aliens couldn't help but study the unusual partnership in action. Doctor moved with easy confidence, occasionally speaking softly to Rex in what appeared to be a mixture of verbal commands and casual conversation. Rex responded by maintaining perfect position relative to the human, his head constantly moving as he scanned their surroundings with intense attention. "Your companion appears very alert," observed Ambassador nervously. "He is," Doctor confirmed. "Rex has been trained to monitor our environment for any changes or potential threats. It's partly instinctive behavior and partly training. Dogs have been humanity's partners for thousands of years. We've evolved together in many ways." The word "evolved" sent another ripple of concern through the group. The implication that humans had deliberately guided the development of another species suggested capabilities and long-term thinking that was deeply unsettling. "How many species have humans formed these partnerships with?" asked President. "Oh, quite a few," Doctor replied cheerfully. "Dogs are the most common and longest-standing partnership, but we also work with horses for transportation, cats for companionship and pest control, various birds for different purposes, and many others. Some partnerships are more practical, others are purely for emotional fulfillment." General Moore rumbled deep in his throat. "You have created an army of allied species." Doctor paused in her walking, her expression becoming more serious. "I think there may be a misunderstanding here. These aren't military alliances in the traditional sense. They're relationships based on mutual affection and benefit. Rex doesn't follow my commands because I dominate him. He does it because we trust each other and work as a team." To demonstrate her point, Doctor knelt down beside Rex and scratched behind his ears. The dog's tail began wagging, and he made a sound that was unmistakably pleased. The display of genuine affection between two completely different species was unlike anything the aliens had ever witnessed. "Fascinating," whispered Ambassador Aura. "The emotional bond appears to be genuine on both sides." "It is," Doctor confirmed as she stood up. "Rex would risk his life to protect me, and I would do the same for him, not because we have to, but because we want to. That's what partnership means." The conference room they eventually reached was a massive chamber designed to accommodate the various physical requirements of different alien species. Atmospheric controls maintained different pressure zones, lighting could be adjusted for different visual spectrums, and the furniture could be reconfigured for various body types. Doctor took her assigned seat at the central table, and Rex settled beside her chair with the casual confidence of long practice. The aliens arranged themselves in their designated areas, but every one of them kept their attention focused on the human-dog partnership. "Doctor," Commander began formally, "the Galactic Council has agreed to this meeting to discuss humanity's intentions regarding contact with our civilization. We hope you understand that first contact protocols are necessary for the security and stability of all involved parties." "Absolutely," Doctor agreed. "Humanity has developed extensive first contact protocols as well. We understand that this situation requires careful handling and mutual respect." "Your protocols," General Orr said slowly, "do they involve the use of allied species as we have observed?" Doctor glanced down at Rex, who was calmly surveying the room as if memorizing every detail. "In a sense, yes. Rex provides capabilities that I lack: enhanced senses, threat assessment, and emotional support. In stressful situations, having a trusted companion can be invaluable for maintaining clear thinking and good judgment." Ambassador leaned forward, her crystalline form chiming softly with curiosity. "Doctor, if I may ask, how did your species develop this ability to form partnerships with other life forms? It seems highly unusual." Doctor considered the question thoughtfully. "I think it comes from necessity and opportunity. Early in our development, humans were not the dominant species on our planet. We had to be adaptable and resourceful to survive. Forming alliances with other species gave us advantages we couldn't achieve alone." "But you are now the dominant species on your world?" asked. "We are," Doctor admitted, "but we maintained the partnerships because they continued to be beneficial and because we had formed genuine emotional bonds. Abandoning our allies when we no longer needed them would have been, well, it would have been inhuman." The word "inhuman" registered strangely in the translation systems, carrying implications about human values and ethics that the aliens found both intriguing and concerning. Elder's ethereal form brightened with a sudden thought. Doctor, this partnership ability, does it extend to sapient species as well as non-sapient ones? The question hung in the air like a charged particle, and every alien in the room leaned forward slightly to hear the answer. Doctor smiled, and this time the expression seemed less threatening and more genuine. That's what we're here to find out, isn't it? Humanity is very interested in the possibility of partnerships with other sapient species. We believe that cooperation and mutual benefit are more productive than competition and conflict. Rex chose that moment to stand up and approach the nearest alien ambassador Aura. The healer's forearms drew back nervously as the dog stopped just outside her personal space and sat down, regarding her with calm interest. "What is he doing?" Aura asked nervously. "Rex is introducing himself," Doctor explained. "In dog culture, sitting calmly near someone is a sign of peaceful intentions and a willingness to be friends." Aura stared at the dog for a long moment, clearly uncertain how to respond. Rex waited patiently, his tail giving the occasional gentle wag. May I interact with him?" Aura asked hesitantly. "Of course," Doctor said warmly. "Rex enjoys meeting new people. Just move slowly and let him sniff your hand first." Tentatively extended one of her 4 hands toward Rex. The dog leaned forward and sniffed delicately, his nose twitching as he processed her alien scent. After a moment, he moved closer and gently pressed his head against her palm. The reaction from the other aliens was immediate and intense. Here was proof that the mysterious creature accompanying the human was not only non-threatening, but actively seeking friendly contact with alien species. His expression transformed from fear to wonder as she felt the warmth and softness of Rex's fur. He's actually quite pleasant," she said with surprise. Doctor beamed with pride. "Rex is very good at making friends. It's one of the qualities that made him perfect for this mission." Commander watched the interaction with fascination and growing understanding. "Doctor, is this how humans approach all relationships, through partnership and mutual benefit rather than dominance?" "It's how we prefer to approach them," Doctor replied. "We've learned that cooperation usually produces better results than conflict. Rex and I are a good example. Together, we're more capable than either of us would be alone." President Gak rumbled thoughtfully. "And you believe this principle could apply to relationships between humans and alien species?" "We hope so," Doctor said earnestly. "Humanity has a lot to learn from other species, and we hope we have things to offer in return. The universe is vast and full of challenges that might be better faced together than alone." As if to emphasize the point, Rex returned to Doctor's side and settled down again, maintaining his calm watch over the proceedings. The message was clear. This was what partnership looked like in action. General Orr leaned back in his massive chair, his red scales shifting color as he processed what he had observed. "Doctor, you have given us much to consider. Your approach to relations is unique in our experience." "I hope that's a good thing," Doctor replied with another smile. "That remains to be determined," Commander said carefully. "But we admit that you have exceeded our expectations in ways we did not anticipate." The meeting continued for several more hours, covering topics ranging from human technology and culture to galactic politics and trade possibilities. Throughout it all, Rex maintained his calm presence at Doctor's side, occasionally interacting gently with aliens who worked up the courage to approach him. By the end of the session, the aliens' perception of humanity had a fundamental shift. The terrifying warrior species they had feared was still there. The evidence was undeniable. But they had also seen something else. A species capable of inspiring loyalty, forming genuine partnerships, and approaching even first contact with an alien civilization as an opportunity for friendship rather than conquest. As the meeting concluded, and preparations were made for Doctor's departure, Commander Tar found himself walking beside the human diplomat toward the docking bay. "Doctor," he said quietly, "I confess that this meeting has challenged many of our assumptions about your species." "I hope that's led to better understanding," she replied. "Perhaps," admitted, "but it has also raised new questions. If humans are capable of inspiring such loyalty in non-sapient species, what might you be capable of with sapient ones?" Doctor glanced down at Rex, who was padding along contentedly beside them. "I guess we'll all find out together, won't we?" The question would haunt the Galactic Council for days to come. 3 months had passed since Dr. Sarah's historic first contact with the Galactic Council, and the universe had not been the same since. What had begun as a terrifying encounter with an unknown species had evolved into something far more complex, and in many ways, more concerning for the established galactic order. Commander stood in his private office aboard the Council flagship, staring at reports that would have been impossible to imagine just a few standard months earlier. The holographic displays showed data streams from across the galaxy, each one telling the same incredible story. Humans were everywhere, and they were making friends. Sir, his aide, a young crystalline officer named, entered the office with another stack of data tablets. The latest reports from the frontier sectors have arrived. I'm afraid the situation is accelerating. His compound eyes dimmed with exhaustion. How bad is it this time? The healer caste has formally requested human medical assistance for the plague affecting their outer colonies, reported. The Serpentine Merchants Guild has signed a comprehensive trade agreement with Earth, and the Void Walkers have invited human researchers to study their dimensional technology. All of this because of one diplomatic meeting, muttered. How did we not see this coming? The truth was, they should have seen it coming. All the signs had been there during Doctor's visit, but the aliens had been too focused on the obvious threats to recognize the subtle ones. They had prepared for human aggression, human military tactics, and human technological advantages. They had not prepared for human charm. Sir, continued hesitantly, there's more. The reports indicate that in every case the humans are accompanied by companions like Doctors Rex. Turned away from the displays with a sound that his species made when confronted with the incomprehensible. Show me the footage again, all of it. The holographic display shifted to show scenes from across the galaxy. On healer worlds, human medical teams worked alongside their alien counterparts, while creatures identified as therapy dogs provided comfort to alien patients who had never experienced anything like unconditional compassion from another species. In serpentine trading posts, humans negotiated deals while their horses stood patiently by, demonstrating a partnership so seamless that it inspired awe in the profit-focused serpentine merchants. Among the Void Walkers' research stations, human scientists conducted experiments while their cats displayed an independence that somehow made the humans seem more trustworthy rather than less. Each scene showed the same pattern, humans forming genuine connections not just with alien species, but inspiring those species to examine their own relationships with other life forms. The implications were staggering. The reports all mention the same phenomenon, observed. Wherever humans go, local species begin forming new partnerships. The healers have started working with previously ignored symbiotic organisms. The serpentines are developing trade relationships with species they once considered too primitive to bother with. Even the warriors are experimenting with animal companions for scouting purposes. It's spreading, realized with growing alarm. The human approach to partnership is infectious. They're not just forming alliances, they're changing how other species think about alliances. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority communication. The holographic display shifted to show the familiar features of President, though the ancient leader looked unusually troubled. Commander began without preamble. We need to talk. I'm calling an emergency session of the Council. We have a situation that requires immediate attention. What kind of situation? Asked, though he suspected he already knew. The kind where we need to fundamentally reconsider everything we thought we knew about galactic politics, replied grimly. How soon can you reach Council chambers? Within the hour, confirmed. Sir, is this about the human expansion? It's about what the human expansion is causing, corrected, and it's far more significant than we anticipated. The emergency council session was unlike any that had been convened in living memory. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered, but instead of the usual formal diplomatic atmosphere, the chamber buzzed with excited conversation and barely contained anxiety. As took his place at the central podium, he could see the evidence of change throughout the assembled delegates. Ambassador Ara had a small, colorful creature perched on one of her shoulders, something she identified as a therapy bird that human medical teams had introduced to help with her species' chronic anxiety disorders. Several warriors wore new armor configurations designed to accommodate the war cats. They had begun training after observing human military units. Even the ethereal void walkers seemed somehow more substantial, as if their partnership experiments with human research animals had given them new connections to physical reality. Fellow beings of the Council, began, we convene this emergency session to address what can only be described as the most significant shift in galactic civilization in recorded history. President activated the central display, showing a galaxy-wide map dotted with thousands of indicator lights. These lights represent confirmed human presence or influence across known space. As you can see, in just 3 months, they have achieved a level of galactic integration that most species require centuries to accomplish. Murmurs of concern and amazement rippled through the chamber. The display showed human influence spreading like a beneficial contagion across trade routes, research stations, and diplomatic outposts. But that's not why we're here, continued. We're here because of what human influence is causing throughout the rest of galactic society. The display shifted to show interconnected networks spreading outward from each human contact point. Wherever humans had established relationships, new partnerships were forming between species that had never previously interacted. Trade agreements, research collaborations, and cultural exchanges were multiplying at an exponential rate. General Orr stood up, his massive red form bristling with agitation. They're disrupting the established order, for we've maintained stability through careful balance of power and controlled interaction between species. The humans are destroying that system. Are they destroying it or improving it? Asked Ambassador Aura. Her therapy bird chirped softly, a sound that seemed to calm not just her but several other nervous representatives. My people's anxiety levels have decreased significantly since we began working with human medical teams and their companion animals. We're discovering capabilities we never knew we had. Elder's ethereal form pulsed with thoughtful energy. The Void Walkers have learned more about dimensional theory in 3 months of human collaboration than we had in the previous 3 centuries. Their approach to problem-solving through partnership is revolutionizing our research methods. That's exactly the problem, Orr growled. They're changing everything too fast. Rapid change leads to instability, and instability leads to conflict. Commander gestured for attention. Before we debate the merits of human influence, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. I've asked Doctor to attend this session via quantum communication to answer our questions directly. The holographic display shifted again, and Dr. Sarah's image appeared with crystal clarity. She was seated in what appeared to be her ship's communication center, and Rex was visible lying peacefully at her feet. Doctor began formally, thank you for agreeing to speak with us. We need to understand, is this rapid expansion and influence part of a deliberate human strategy? Doctor's expression was thoughtful and genuine. Commander, I appreciate the directness of your question. Yes and no. Humans did plan to make contact with as many galactic species as possible. That was always our intention. But the rate at which relationships are developing has surprised us too. We didn't anticipate how receptive other species would be to partnership-based cooperation. Why are you so effective at forming these partnerships? Asked Ambassador. What makes human methods so successful? Doctor glanced down at Rex, who seemed to sense the attention and looked up at her with calm devotion. I think it comes from our understanding that strength doesn't have to mean dominance. Rex is incredibly capable. His senses are sharper than mine, his reflex is faster, his loyalty absolute. But I don't control him through force or fear. Our partnership works because we complement each other's abilities and trust each other completely. But surely there must be some element of dominance, pressed General Orr. The stronger species naturally leads. Do I lead Rex or does he lead me? Doctor asked in return. When we're in potentially dangerous territory, I follow his instincts about threats and safe paths. When we're in social situations, he follows my judgment about appropriate behavior. Leadership shifts based on who has the relevant expertise. The concept was so alien to traditional galactic power structures that several representatives looked genuinely confused. President leaned forward. Doctor, what are humanity's long-term goals for galactic society? Where do you see this expansion leading? Doctor's answer was simple but profound. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Humans have always been explorers and collaborators. We see the galactic community as the ultimate expression of what cooperation can achieve. We want to contribute to it and help it grow. And if other species resist this, cooperation, asked carefully, Then we respect their choice, Doctor replied without hesitation. Partnership can't be forced. It has to be freely chosen by all parties involved. Elder's form brightened with sudden understanding. That's why the expansion is accelerating. Species that see successful human partnerships want to experience them for themselves. It's not conquest, it's attraction. Exactly, Doctor confirmed. Rex doesn't follow me because he has to, but because our partnership makes both our lives better. When other species see that dynamic in action, many of them want to explore similar possibilities. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans weren't conquering the galaxy through force or intimidation. They were transforming it through example, showing other species new ways of thinking about cooperation and mutual benefit. There's something else we need to discuss, Doctor continued. Humanity has been in communication with Earth, and we've received approval to make a formal proposal to the Galactic Council. Every representative focused their attention intently on the holographic display. We would like to establish a formal exchange program, Doctor announced. Human teams would be stationed throughout the galaxy to work alongside local species on projects of mutual interest. In return, we would welcome alien researchers, diplomats, and observers to Earth and human colonies to study our methods and share their own knowledge. The proposal was simultaneously reasonable and revolutionary. Never before had a species proposed such extensive integration with the galactic community so soon after first contact. Ambassador uncoiled from her platform with obvious agitation. Doctor, such a program would require unprecedented levels of trust and cooperation. How can we be certain that human intentions are genuinely peaceful? Doctor's answer came not in words but in action. She reached down and scratched Rex behind the ears, eliciting the now familiar tail wagging response. Commander, Ambassador Aura, General, or you've all met Rex. You've seen how he interacts with alien species. Does his behavior suggest that humans teach aggression and dominance or cooperation and friendship? The question struck at the heart of what the aliens had observed. In every interaction, Rex had displayed curiosity, gentleness, and a willingness to approach other species with peaceful intentions. If this was the result of human training and partnership methods, the implications for galactic society were enormous. The program would be entirely voluntary, Doctor added. Species could participate as much or as little as they chose. The goal would be to share knowledge and develop new forms of cooperation that benefit everyone involved. President looked around the chamber, reading the expressions and energy signatures of the assembled representatives. Doctor, the Council will need time to consider your proposal. This represents a significant departure from traditional diplomatic protocols. Of course, Doctor replied. Take all the time you need. Humanity has waited this long to join the galactic community. We can wait a little longer to do it right. After Doctor's image faded, the council chamber erupted in intense discussion. Species that had barely spoken to each other in centuries were now engaging in animated debates about the merits of partnership-based cooperation. The very structure of galactic politics was shifting before their eyes. Commander called for order. We need to make a decision. Do we accept the human proposal, reject it, or attempt to find some middle ground? I move for acceptance, Ambassador Aura said immediately. My people have already benefited enormously from human partnership methods. We should make this opportunity available to all species that desire it. Seconded, added Elder. The Void Walkers' support expanded cooperation. General or rumbled with reluctant agreement. The Empire will participate, but we insist on maintaining our own military protocols alongside any partnership programs. One by one, species that had spent viewing each other as competitors, threats, or irrelevant curiosities began agreeing to a program of unprecedented cooperation. The vote, when it finally came, was overwhelmingly in favor of acceptance. As the session concluded, and representatives began making plans for their first exchange programs with humanity, Commander found himself reflecting on how completely their understanding of human nature had changed. They had feared humanity as a species of dangerous warriors. They had not anticipated that the most dangerous thing about humans was their ability to inspire others to be better than they had ever imagined possible. 6 months later, Commander stood in his office reviewing reports that would have been science fiction just a year earlier. The Galactic Council now facilitated more cooperation than had occurred in the previous 1,000 years combined. Trade networks had expanded exponentially, research breakthroughs were happening at unprecedented rates, and conflicts between species had dropped to historic lows. All because one human woman and her dog had shown the galaxy what partnership really looked like. As if summoned by his thoughts, his door chimed with an incoming visitor. "Enter," he called, and was surprised to see Doctor herself walk through the door. Rex trotted beside her, his tail wagging as he recognized the familiar crystalline alien. Doctor said, rising from his desk, "This is an unexpected pleasure. I thought you were assigned to the sector." "I was," Doctor confirmed, reaching down to pat Rex affectionately. "But Rex and I received a special assignment. We're being transferred to serve as permanent liaison officers here at Council headquarters." His compound eyes brightened with what he had learned to recognize as anticipation. "What kind of assignment?" Doctor smiled the warm, genuine expression that had become familiar throughout the galaxy. "The Council has requested human assistance in establishing partnership protocols for first contact with species outside our current galactic borders. Apparently, there are entire sectors we haven't explored yet, and the Council wants to approach them with the same cooperative methods that have been so successful here. You're going to teach the galaxy how to make friends," translated, and the absurdity of the statement made him emit the crystalline chiming sound that passed for laughter among his species. "Something like that," Doctor agreed. "Rex and I have gotten pretty good at it." Rex, hearing his name, approached his desk and sat down in the polite, friendly posture that had become his signature greeting. After months of reports and observations, the sight no longer seemed threatening or mysterious. It simply looked like what it was, a loyal friend waiting to make another friend. Reached out with one crystalline appendage and gently touched Rex's head, marveling at the soft warmth of the fur and the complete trust in the dog's eyes. In that moment, he understood completely why the galaxy had changed so dramatically. Humans had not conquered them with superior weapons or overwhelming force. They had won them over with something far more powerful, the simple but revolutionary idea that different species could work together not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, realized, was probably the best thing that had ever happened to it.